sexual activity among teenagers in high school. I'm not naive. I know that that goes on. And if it does go on, I think it should be, it's serious. That kind of action is serious with lifelong serious consequences, such as sexually transmitted diseases, and if you're trying to avoid pregnancy, there's that issue as well. So it's an important topic. It affects people's lives. It goes on in high schools among adolescents, and I thought that it was something that would be worth looking into. My bias going into this is that yes, why not make condoms available to students that are already sexually active? What's the harm in that? But I think by the time I was done with my research, I think I was better informed and my viewpoint shifted somewhat with regard to this question, and it really has to do with how it's done. It really is important how you go about doing something like this, because students can get the wrong idea if it's done incorrectly. Those who are opposed to this idea of distributing condoms to high school students, they have some legitimate fears, okay? It was hard to find sources expressing those fears that were credible. I did find two sources. One of them was a statement that was put out, a public statement by the Catholic Church in New York City, put out some years ago. I think it still holds true for the sort of the religious opposition to doing this, and I think that largely is what the opposition is about, is for religious reasons. And one of the concerns that the Catholic bishops had, and is also reflected in a paper I found through the health psychology department at Vanderbilt University, one of the fears is that will this encourage young people to have more sex? And that's logical. You can understand why people would be afraid that that would happen. And this is a reason that religious organizations and others are opposed to the idea, is they think it sends the wrong message. And it's the school encouraging young people to have sex if you make the condoms available. That's one reason. And the other reason is kind of interesting. It's about sort of related. If you think sex before marriage is a sin, then you might be a little bit upset that your tax dollars are paying for condoms that are being distributed at the school that your child is going to. That might really make you mad. And apparently it does upset people a lot who feel that, that sex at that age is wrong, it's a sin, outside of marriage is a sin, and what are you doing, waving a condom in front of my child? That's not what I want the message to be at the school that I send my child to. So those are the two main arguments against it. And I guess a third thing I can say is the Catholic Church certainly thinks there are alternatives. Mainly just say no. That's the main alternative that the Catholic Church likes. And they claim that they have programs that are effective, and they talk about the lack of pregnancy in the teens that are in these programs as evidence that they work. And the Church finally, in the statement by the bishops in New York City, they said, what kind of faith are you placing in young people if you're not placing any faith in them, is what they say. You're sort of saying, we don't trust you, so here, have this condom. And they don't like that message either. Those in support point to the prevalence of sexually transmitted diseases, and condom is the only form of contraceptive that really protects young people from sexually transmitted diseases, and so they think they should be made available for that reason. And they also argue that really schools are not trying to supplant parents, that it's still the parents' role to teach values to their children, and the children will decide what to do with their freedom. And they also argue that condoms are fine so long as they're part of a sex ed program. And so condoms are just a part of something bigger that schools should do. And I ended up agreeing with, I didn't change my mind about condom distribution. I ended up agreeing with the idea of making them available, but I also learned that it really matters school that distributes condoms, students from a school that doesn't, and, you know, studies at different places at different times confirm that just having those available does not increase sexual activity. So the scientific evidence shows that that fear is unfounded. As far as the idea that other programs work just as well, it turns out that, sort of reading between the lines, I kind of figured out that, sort of hinted by one of the authors that I read, that maybe the success of those abstinence programs is based, the fact that they don't have pregnancies coming out of those programs is based on, yes, maybe those students aren't using condoms, but maybe they are using the pill, maybe they are getting abortions and not. Just because you don't have pregnancies out of an abstinence program doesn't mean the students aren't having sex. And if they're having sex without condoms, it does mean that they're not being protected. So that's how I